In today's video, we're going to be tackling one of the most frustrating issues that dog owners deal with, which is pulling on leash. Charlotte's guardians contacted me because she was constantly pulling on leash and she wasn't enjoyable to walk. I'm going to show you step by step how I teach her to walk nicely without using any corrections. If you're tired of being dragged and you want walks with your dog to be more enjoyable and stress-free, I'm going to show you how. I previously made a longer version of this video where you can watch my 4 days with Charlotte, but due to popular request, I've transformed it into a shorter, step-by-step what you need to know tutorial. In this video, I'm going to share tips and techniques to master loose leash walking and help you transform your walks with your dog into something that's enjoyable for both you and them. First, let's get you set up for leash training. Before you start leash training, there's 4 things that I suggest your dog already knows. A loaded marker word so you can tell them when they're doing a good job. Sit. A well-trained leave it cue so that you can verbally ask them not to go after the things that they're interested in. And a well-trained drop cue so that you can verbally ask them to release the things in their mouth. Charlotte didn't know leave it or drop it yet, and I'm going to show you some moments on our walks where it would have been really helpful to have those cues trained. I'm going to link tutorials for how I teach all 4 in the caption below. In terms of equipment, I recommend using a 6-foot leash and a front clip harness. You're also going to require a lot of high-value treats. I also strongly encourage you to play with or exercise your dog for 10 to 15 minutes before a training session. It's important to burn off that excess energy and meet their needs before asking them to meet ours. There are 2 styles of walking that we're going to teach: heel and loose leash. To me, heel means walking perfectly by my side at my pace. It's intentionally strict with no sniff breaks. It's essentially all about focused movement. Next, I define loose leash walking as the dog going anywhere that they want as long as there isn't leash tension. If they want to sniff, I stop and wait. This is the way that dogs prefer to walk because they get to adjust their own pace, they get to enjoy sniffing, and they aren't forced to walk in a straight line, which is unnatural to them. I think that it's important to teach both heel and loose leash walking. When I'm going on training walks, I typically use each one about 50% of the time. After the dog is trained, I tend to walk them loose leash about 99% of the time, and I save heel for particularly busy or distracting settings, or if I need to get somewhere quickly and I don't have time for sniff breaks. This might seem odd at first, but I always start leash training indoors without a leash. In order to use positive reinforcement to train a dog, we need to start in situations where they can be successful so there's something to reward. Think about it like this. If you were teaching your kid math, where would you be more successful? In your home at the table or at Disneyland? A really distracting environment makes it much more difficult to learn. For dogs, outside with all the sights, smells, and sounds is pretty much Disneyland. We don't start training in Disneyland. Next, why don't I use a leash to start? Most people are overly reliant on the leash and they use it to force their dog to stay by them. Instead, I want you to think of the leash as a safety belt rather than a steering wheel. When we go on walks, the leash is there to keep your dog safe, but it shouldn't be used to direct them. To get your dog in position, take 1 step backwards while luring your dog behind you, turn them towards you, then reward them in a sit. Make sure that you have your dog's attention before starting to walk. The first few times that I practice heel, I do it with a treat lure to encourage the dog to stay in that position that I want them to be. I reward in motion every few steps so that they start to learn that walking next to me in that spot gets them great things. Please talk to your dog and make it fun so that you can keep their attention for about 15 seconds. You'll notice that until I'm confident that Charlotte can heel next to me for about 15 seconds, I don't add the verbal cue heel. Instead, right now I'm just saying let's go to get her started.
Okay, let's go.
In all of my tutorial videos, I encourage you to teach the action or behavior that you want before you name it. This makes it easier for the dog to associate the verbal cue with the action later on since it's already something that they're semi-skilled at. I also want to point out that I'm giving the treat right next to my left leg. Watch these 2 clips to see the difference that makes. We want to reward our dog for being next to our knee, not for cutting in front of us. You'll notice that I'm no longer using a treat as a lure right in front of her face.
Let's go. Yes.
Instead, I reward her when we start moving and then again every few steps or whenever she turns with me. Please make sure that you don't slow down or stop to give your dog the treat. We want all of this to be done in motion. If you have a really tiny dog, a great trick is to use a wooden spoon slathered with wet dog food or with peanut butter so you don't have to crouch over.
Yes. Good.
Once you're confident in your dog's ability to walk next to you for about 15 seconds without a treat lure, put on their harness and leash because we're going to add the cue heel.
Charlotte, heel. Good.
Since we've added the cue heel and we want them to build an association with the action, I initially start with the treat lure again to help them get it right.
Yes.
After that, transition to rewarding them every few steps or whenever you turn. Make sure that you keep talking to your dog and make it fun so that you keep their attention and they don't break out of that heel position until you tell them to.
Let's go.
To finish a session, I either ask for a sit
Yes.
or I toss a treat while I say okay, which will be a precursor for loose leash walking later on. I want to show you a brief clip of this session because I accidentally dropped a treat on the ground, therefore I made the difficulty much higher.
Yeah. Yes. Good girl. Here we drop it. Good girl.
You can see in this clip how distracted the treat made her. To keep her focused, I had to encourage her a lot and I even switched to luring very briefly.
Girl. Yes. See, Charlotte. Good. Okay. Yes. Yes. Good.
It's a good example of how to get your dog back if something else grabs their focus.
Yes.
Afterwards, I let her grab the treat and then we did one more quick session before we went outside. Each time I progress the difficulty of the setting, I like to start with a lure to help them generalize the skill. Again, I also suggest switching to luring if something comes up during a walk that your dog was not ready for. After that, I move to intermittent rewards again. At first, I reward every couple of steps or whenever I turn, then I slowly increase that duration between rewards as you practice. Please still remember to take breaks, praise your dog, and play between sets. I also started incorporating moments where I turn with Charlotte on the inside rather than the outside of my path. To start, you'll notice that I use a treat lure to keep her where she needs to be so that my knee doesn't touch her, then I phase out that lure again. Practicing turns and changing your pace can keep your dog guessing about what you're going to do next, and it helps keep their focus. As you can tell from Charlotte's happy prems, it also makes the training more exciting. I also wanted to show you how I start practicing going in and out of loose leash walking.
Okay.
Here I'm tossing a treat as I say okay, which tells her to break out of that heel position. As long as there's no leash tension, I continue on and I reward her when she's back at my side, then I ask her to heel and I repeat the process.
Okay.
If you're struggling to keep your dog's attention, ask yourself these 5 questions. First, are you using high-value treats? 2, did you burn off some of their excess energy before the training session? 3, did you progress the difficulty too quickly? 4, are your training sessions too long? And 5, are you rewarding frequently enough that you're building a strong reinforcement history for the behavior that you want? Often the answer to your struggles will be in one of those.
Yes. Good.
The first time out the gate, I completely lost her attention to a sniff, so I lured her back into the backyard to try again. If your dog knows leave it, this would be a perfect time to have used it.
Okay, ready to get? Good.
The same smell got her again, but this time I was able to verbally encourage her away.
Good. Yes. Very good. Walk again.
This time I dramatically increased the reward frequency to keep her attention.
Yes.
You'll notice here that she walks past that original distracting smell without any difficulty and without me giving treats. It was verbal encouragement only. This is why practicing and doing repetitions before increasing the difficulty is so important.
Yes. Good girl. Okay, Charlotte. This way. Come on. Come on, Charlotte. Yes. Good. Yes. Good. Yes. Okay.
When she's supposed to be in a heel, I turn and I encourage her with me whenever she goes past my knee.
Let's go, Charlotte.
I want to point out that there will be brief moments of leash tension if your dog pulls, but rather than tugging on the leash as a training method, I want you to verbally encourage your dog to turn with you and reward them when they do.
Yes. Charlotte. Yes. Let's go.
A smell here completely grabbed her focus. Verbal encouragement failed, so without pulling at all, I walked my hands up the leash, then try to lure her away, which took 3 attempts. Have I mentioned yet that I strongly encourage you to teach your dog a verbal leave it cue? If instead I had just let her sniff, it would have been reinforcing that she pulled towards the smell. Another great tip is to bring a few pieces of something incredibly high value, like hot dogs or chicken, for particularly challenging moments like this.
Yes. Okay, Charlotte. Okay.
Here I say okay and toss a treat to release her to go loose leash walk. As long as there's not tension on leash, everything after that is up to her. If she wants to stop and sniff, I stop.
Okay, Charlotte. Let's go. Yes. Good. Yes. Okay, Charlotte, heel. Yes. Charlotte? Yes.
We need to remember that dogs' main sense is scent. Asking them to go for a walk without sniffing would be like us going for a walk with our eyes closed. It wouldn't be nearly as enjoyable.
Charlotte? Yes. Good. Okay, Charlotte? This way? Heel. Yes. Good.
I recommend not going too far from home for the first couple weeks because you want to reserve enough patience for the entire walk. If you start to struggle far from home, you might decide to let your dog drag you just to get home again, and you'll undo a lot of your progress. For a couple short weeks, keep these boundaries about pulling on leash clear, and you'll be amazed with how quickly your dog progresses. It's likely going to take a few weeks before you can go on a genuine walk without all of these frequent turns. As someone who personally used correction-based methods in the past, I do understand that this is a complete mindset shift. Most leash tutorials will lead you to believe that your dog should be perfect after one session. That's actually one of the reasons that I created this video. I want to normalize a normal learning progression. And no, you won't always need to have treats in your hand or to do all of these crazy turns. Spend a few weeks kindly teaching your dog this hard new skill and you'll get to enjoy years of fun walks together. If you're looking for more tips about leash pulling, I recommend that you watch this video where I cover 7 common mistakes that we make and how to fix them.